My name is Pascal Schuback. I work for a group called Cascadia Region Earthquake Working Group, and I also play for a lot of technology in the emergency management field and innovate. What I wanted to talk about today was a little bit related to how do we use drones, but not necessarily the cool factor of a drone, but let's talk about the actual policies and issues and the things you'll need to support your drone. And those are things that are important to understand and go through. So we're going to go through this process. We're going to talk quickly about the purposes of the drone, the research that you need to do, the community, the training effect, but also just the policies and what gear you need to understand those policies, and then obviously practice a little bit. So the purpose, we need to find out what's important with you is understanding with your organization is what is the purpose of the use of the drone. Are you going to be focusing on the drone to doing for searching for people? Are you doing for building inspections? Are you doing it just for situational awareness? Because each of those types of differences of purpose have a different drone or different policy that you're going to have to work through. And those are important things to understand in being able to adapt and purchase a drone and create a policy and a program. One of the other thing that's important too in there is the conditions. So I'm from the Northwest. I'm used to tall trees, which are heavily branched, as well as a lot of mountain range. Whereas some people from the Midwest have a lot more urban or open area and flat, and have the ability to have different visual capabilities than we would, as well as different frequency issues. So we would be in a denser environment, we have less signal strength because we have a lot of valleys and issues we have to face with. So the research side of it, let's not talk about necessarily research of drones and that, but the research of what you need to have. You need to find out who in your organization is supportive of drones, who you have to work with to make sure you have the liability coverage for drones, and working with your attorney's office or attorney general's office. You need to find out what policies are already existing, what policies are already there, what other agencies or organizations already have for a policy, but as well as what are the rules, and understanding how to fly, how to own, how to operate a drone, because you need to make sure you meet those and make sure that you don't do things outside of the bounds of a government agency or a private organization or a citizen. It's very important to make sure that if you are a citizen and a public agency that you separate those two actions so that you don't get in trouble doing work things with a personal drone, flying as an amateur versus flying as a 107 pilot and registered in that process. But at the same time, also research in the way of knowing what you can fly, what equipment you need to get, how it operates, and the comfort level of what your community might need. When you look at the drones, a lot of times what we do is we look at the cool factor of it. Hey, this is cool, we're going to buy a drone, let's go buy it at the store or order it online, and then you get it. And unfortunately, a lot of times what happens is that equipment sits for a while because now you have it, now what do you do? And then the cool factor kind of disappears because paperwork is always uncool. And so how do we work through the process of going through reducing the paperwork, but increasing our efficiencies and increasing the capacity of that drone and getting it out to the community and supporting the need that you originally purchased that drone for. At the same time, I think one of the things that would be important for you to remember is to research the negative. What are the negatives of having a drone in your organization and understanding those, both on an internal and an external perspective. If you have that on an internal perspective, you can then get yourself through the policy and the paperwork process a little faster because you'll be able to answer the questions because you've done your research on how to overcome that negative issue. The same thing for the community, but just on a larger scale, and comforting the community inside their privacy issues, inside their concerns for safety or in operations and safe flights. So within that, at the same time, we talk about community, and this is supposed to support the community. What's really important to know is the community probably already has more drones than you think of. It's a device that's been selling multiple versions, and it's been out for a couple years. So when you have that drone and that capability, you can find others who are already doing it, although they may not be doing it for a law enforcement, a public safety, or a fire capability, but they understand how it works, what issues of flying are, because they'll be the same for you, but also they can help you understand what gear to use, and you can see what you need to purchase. When I'm with my colleagues and friends, I always find all kinds of fun little toys or tools that we need to purchase, like that's a cool feature that fixes this problem. What a great way for us to be able to recognize and go, hey, that actually solves what I need, and it's a $10 part, and that helps make the operational function easy.
I think it's a speaker issue and not
a
microphone issue.
Sorry everyone, we're getting static in the room.
But the lavalier should still continue to work for Periscope.
Yeah. So training is important, and training should be in everything that we do inside of our organizations and making sure we have the training set up. What's important to know is what training we need to do and how we need to apply it. The first and foremost, I would hands down say you need to do in understanding training is follow what the FAA says to do. If you need to get your 107, you need to get a 107. You need to make sure you're comfortable with all the rules and the policies and understanding what you need to do to maintain it and to make sure you keep that in a good, satisfactory way. At the same time though, is you want to make sure that you, like I said earlier, is don't mix the amateur to the professional level of the 107 together. It doesn't mean you can't work together, but you want to make sure that you don't fly inappropriately if you're an amateur pilot and you're doing something on a professional basis. You want to make sure you really keep those two separate fields separate, but also work together and comfortably together to overcome any of those challenges. Good training is hard to find, but at the same time it's out there. Once again, it helps with your research and being able to find out who has drone operations and who's flying, but also at the same time being able to go out and reach out to them. And that may be those in the community who are not part of the public safety arena. They might just be professional photographers or filmmakers, and they'll be really able to help you train and utilize the equipment on what you need to do. They may not train you on the inside the policy side. There are other people that can help you with that, but understanding how to use the equipment and to touch and play with the equipment before you have to purchase the equipment would be key and would save you a lot of time and money and possibly mistakes. Policies, these are the black and white and attorneys. It is important for us to have policies inside your organization. The policies will help you reduce the liability that you have as an organization on when you use that device and how you use that device in the air and in the field and in the response. It helps reduce the liabilities you have to face, and to provide liability, if you have the policies, it will help reduce the challenges of getting that liability coverage taken care of. It's important to work through everyone. Like I said in the research, know the negatives. Know the negatives before you go to the policymakers with a policy, so that when they ask a question that might sound negative or it's a negative issue that the community knows about, such as privacy or safe flying, you'll be able to help answer that answer faster, or bring an answer that's faster and more accurate to saying, I'll get back to you on that. That helps everyone understand also that you've been researching and you've been understanding what's going on, and you can also help bring and identify the issues with the community, because the community will be able to help answer those questions for you as well and provide supportive answers. Gear, now this is kind of the fun part for me, but it's not necessarily the most important. Once you have all these things in place and you can start looking forward to the gear, like I said, go train with other people. Go look at what the filmmakers are doing. They have phenomenal gear. Unfortunately, a lot of that phenomenal gear may be way out of the budget zone, but you'll get some ideas. You can get some talking points, because the majority of them all started with small gear, inexpensive gear, and then they ramped up over time as they got better and more production took place. But it's a good place to start to get ideas on what you can do, what you should have, and how to use it, and what kind of backpacks and things there are out there to hold the gear, to protect the equipment, because most likely their gear gets traveled a lot as well, and it prevents it from getting injured or damaged. The other question too that's important is to make sure you know what you don't need. You don't need to buy everything in there, but it's important to go through the process and identifying where we're at. And so with that, that gives you the ability of making sure that you buy the right gear and enough gear. So for example, in my Go kit for my Phantom 4, I have multiple batteries, because in my flight time, I have a certain amount of time, but I know that it takes 3 times as long to charge a battery. So I don't want to just fly it once, sit for 3/4 of an hour to wait for it to charge, and then go fly again. I want to be able to fly much faster. But then I have to carry all that gear. I have to make sure it's all available for me. So what kind of bag do you want to have in that? So it's important to think about and how it works for you. Last, practice. Practice is really important. And the way I encourage you to practice is kind of what I mentioned earlier about having that line between professional, your 107, and your amateur. If your agency's looking at getting a drone, go buy a drone for yourself personally and separate yourself from drone operations for work, and just go fly for a sunset. Take a picture of a sunset as an amateur. Read the rules to understand about amateur flight, but go take that might have a drone and see if they would let you fly it with them there to understand what it is and go, is this really what we need or not? And then you can be better prepared to handle practice and training as once you get official with a drone and a 107 inside your organization. And so it's that ability of making sure that, are you making the right investments, or should you just partner with another organization or an agency nearby and collaborate with them with their operations? Because it might not be worth going through all that effort to actually set up a drone operations for your agency or not. I'm going to try and hook up my flight controller we're gonna just lift it up and take a picture of inside the room that we're in, so you guys as a Periscope audience can see what the conference center looks like. Unfortunately, a lot of people are packing things up, so there's a lot of noise. A lot of these vendors want to go home, but we'll take a quick peek up in the air and see what we can do. And I'll show you my flight controls. Just so you know, there's going to be some errors on the flight control because I'm in a building, so it can't find GPS. Just so that everyone knows online, I am flying just in a vertical up and down for about 10 feet. We have a safety zone and a landing zone, and I'm right next to the aircraft. So we'll try and see if the Periscope can kind of, zoom in on that, but you'll probably just see the flight controller and me going up and down real quick so you can have an idea. But we are in a safe operating environment as well. So let me try and do this. Why are you not taking? Well, for some reason that's not going to work. As we tested it yesterday, then it did work. I have audience people in the room. Yes, it did work yesterday. It was actually a pretty cool feature. Give you an example of what we did as a setup. I'm using an Apple device for my controller. I'm on the same network as my Apple TV, so we're using an Apple TV at the display panel for the monitor. And if you mirror the display on your Apple device, it should show the whole display factor up on the monitor, and you should be able to see that. It's sometimes always a hit and miss when you're using multiple forms of technology. We'll try it one more time. And maybe if I turn off my laptop, and let's take control. One last try. Well, no, sorry. For those of you online, you're probably just gonna have to watch it go up real quick. I'm gonna take a quick picture of the EMEX room and probably scare a bunch of people, but we'll see what it looks like here in a second. There's the control. That's what we see in the room right now. A bunch of people putting things in boxes and all looking up to see what the noise is. Take a couple pictures for the audience. There we go. So that's what it is for us. For this, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them online or send me an email or just get a hold of me. But we're trying to work on some more tools and resources for organizations to collaborate better in preparing organizations and agencies to use drone tools in their environments a lot easier with a lot less paperwork. So happy to reach out and talk more. But anyway, hope everyone has a great Wednesday, and we're going to check out. Thanks.